The speaker stood behind the podium and addressed the audience. At the 5-minute mark in his talk, he incorrectly named both the company and the products represented by the sales professionals he was speaking in front of. This was a group that I was a senior leader of. The result of his talk? One embarrassed leader, one embarrassed meeting planner, and worst of all, 250 disconnected audience members. The speaker's presence was only memorable because he was a sports celebrity. Money wasted. If you're looking for a speaker for your next sales meeting, conference, broker-dealer event, roadshow, or training symposium, Wholesaler Masterminds Speakers Bureau wants to help. Wholesaler Mastermind Speakers Bureau will connect you and your event with exactly the right speaking professional. Find out more about Wholesaler Mastermind Speakers Bureau at wmmspeakers.com. Welcome to the only podcast on the planet dedicated to exploring the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesalers and their leaders. This is the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. I'm your host, the founder of Wholesaler Masterminds, Rob Shore. Wholesalers, welcome back to another episode of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Wholesalers, we've got a great guest today. A great guest who is a leading social media influencer and educator who's been in the financial services industry for more than 20 years, working with advisors in a variety of roles, including sales, marketing, training, communications, and online technologies. When it comes to leveraging LinkedIn and other platforms for professionals, she's a featured speaker at large industry conferences and also works with smaller groups at various companies, as well as conducts one-on-one training with individuals. In addition, she regularly shares informative and entertaining how-to videos on how to quickly and easily create a social media strategy, providing the steps to maintain that strategy with little effort. Wholesalers, join me in welcoming to the podcast, Laura Virili.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
It is absolutely our pleasure to have you on board. So let's just get right into it. Who's looking at my profile, and why should I care?
Well, you know what? Everyone's looking at your profile. We Google everything today. So if you don't think that people are Googling you and looking at you, they absolutely are. And when it comes to LinkedIn, Google gives preferential treatment to it. So when you do Google an individual, you'll notice that their LinkedIn profile will come up like first, second, or third in those search results. So everyone's looking at you. That's the bottom line. We live in a digital world. It's now your digital first. Your first impression to the world.
So wholesalers, I do want to point you to a post that we did a few years back, and I'm not going to spend Laura's precious time on it, but it's called Your LinkedIn Profile Might Suck If. And I want you to go back and look at that because some of the things that we talk about are still relevant today. And one of the reasons you might be lazy about putting up that nice picture, or lazy about writing your summary, or lazy about writing good solid background on your employer is because you don't think people are looking. So that's why I asked Laura that question. She said everybody's looking, and that's important. So
exactly right.
How do I best use LinkedIn if I can't speak? And what I mean there, and Laura, I know what you mean, but wholesalers, what I mean is, I know you have compliance concerns, and I know that you can't necessarily post and leave comments, but what's the most effective way for me to use LinkedIn when I'm just in listening mode, when I'm in watching mode? Laura, what's your guidance on that?
Yep, it's a great point. So it really is about social listening. It's turning those social listening ears on and really removing the fact that you're like, oh, I can't like, comment, share, post, because you know what, everybody's doing that, or a lot of people are doing that. So if you take the opposite approach and you do social listening, what you can do is you can get very targeted, and you can look at what your top advisors are posting, what they're sharing. A lot of them will share articles, firm-approved articles. Read the articles that those advisors are sharing, and then pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, you know what? I loved that article that you put out on retirement and what that looks like for the next generation, right? Or send them an email. Because you can't comment on their post publicly. So absolutely listen, and you also want to make sure that you're listening in all channels that they're on. If they're on Facebook, listen. Can you be on Facebook from a purely personal standpoint? Absolutely. So have a Facebook page, connect with those advisors that you're really close with, and you'd be amazed how much information is shared online. Historically, it used to take wholesalers 5 to 10 years to gather the same information on an advisor that he or she is sharing today. So get targeted, get focused, go online, and look at just what they're sharing and make it a daily best practice or a weekly best practice, and then act accordingly.
It's an interesting point that you raised, because one of our choices could be, oh, that's something interesting that was posted and I can't comment here, so I will let that go out into the ether and leave it uncommented, period. And your suggestion, I think, is a wonderful one, and that is, whether it's pick up the phone and leave a voicemail or whether it's send an email, we can still connect with that person. We just do it offline.
That's exactly right. And you know what? If you know that you're going to be in that advisor's office, swing by, knock on their door, and just say, hey, you know what? Great article or great post, or what? Saw your pictures from vacation. They look absolutely awesome. Just make sure that they know that you are listening and you're being sincere about it. Because that's really what it boils down to. It boils down to relationships. That's what this business is built on, and the strength of the relationship will always move the needle.
So wholesalers, you're going to hear me going in a few different directions on this conversation with Laura. I'm going to be something of an attorney. I'm going to just pepper her with great questions, because she's the expert, and these are questions that I have and that wholesalers ask of me, and sometimes I know the answers and sometimes I don't. So I got the expert on the line for your benefit and mine. We're just going to ask away. So Laura, what do you consider to be the most common faux pas that LinkedIn users make?
I would have to say that they waste a lot of time. You can get on LinkedIn and get lost. And then the next thing you know, 30, 40 minutes has gone by, because LinkedIn does a great job of pushing content to you, like, oh, reconnect with these colleagues, or, the next thing you know, they're saying to reconnect with this individual, and you're like, oh my God, that's my ex-girlfriend. How does LinkedIn know who that is? And then, of course, you get sucked down that rabbit hole, and it can be an incredible waste of time. But if you go on and you are targeted, let's say you have 25 advisors that you are really looking to build deeper relationships with, go on and look at their activity, see what they're doing, look at what's happening in those firms, whether it's the wires, the broker-dealers, the RIAs. Look at what's happening. What news is out there around those firms that could be affecting them? And then, of course, act accordingly. That's the biggest faux pas, that people waste a lot of time. And the other biggest faux pas is they don't complete their profile. It will more than likely take you about 2 hours to complete your LinkedIn profile, fully optimized. And LinkedIn does a beautiful job of prompting you to complete your profile. And by the way, the more complete your profile is, the higher you will come up in search results. You'll come up 40% higher than anyone else. So you want to have a complete profile. And the other reason for that is, let's say, for example, an advisor looks at your LinkedIn profile and notices that you're into lacrosse, and his son is now playing lacrosse. And, oh, by the way, you played it in high school, you played it in college, and now you're coaching your son's lacrosse team. That's a huge connection point. That advisor actually might pick up the phone and reach out to you, because that has happened. So take the time to complete your profile and share the personal side. Humanize yourself. Share your passions, your hobbies, and your interests. Compliance is okay with that.
I got a question about that. It's one that I didn't preview with you, but it's a simple one. I know people have very firm opinions about whether my profile should be written in first person or third person. What's your thought?
Well, there's two schools of thought, but really, if you're a celebrity, have it written in third person. Mm-hmm. If you write it in first person, it's more conversational and people can connect to you much better, and you're telling your story. So I'm sure you've read different profiles and you have felt connection points to people that have written it in first person. Mm-hmm. It humanizes you. It makes you a human instead of writing it in that third person.
I appreciate your perspective on that. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn Advanced Search. So when I use Advanced Search, it allows me to do a number of things. And I suppose the question I should ask before LinkedIn Advanced Search, because some of the things that I want to get at through Advanced Search require a premium membership. So let me start with the other question, which is, in your opinion, do I need a premium membership?
Actually, you don't. I'm sure LinkedIn won't be happy with me saying that, but I always coach individuals. You can use the free version, and if you're using it to a point where you start feeling limited, that's when you know it's time to upgrade. And you'll feel limited if you're doing, I think it's around, LinkedIn won't reveal the number, but they will limit your profile views. I think it's around 800 a month. So if you go over 800 profile views a month, you won't be able to view anymore. You have the capability of in-mail messaging, which is like cold email, if you will. It's like LinkedIn's version of email.
Yes.
If you're not, connected to that individual. But with saved searches, you can save up to 15 saved searches. The free version, you can save only 3. And then, of course, you get the premium filters, so you have very quick access to the information that you're looking for. So you can do a lot of that. There's some workarounds in there and stuff to do for free. But really, you can do so much right now on LinkedIn for free that premium is really only worth it when you're hitting those limits and you're using it extensively.
Yeah, and wholesalers, for what it's worth, you know how active I am on LinkedIn, and I've paid for it once for 30 days to engage in some market research. So I've been using the free version all along. So I'm so much in agreement with Laura on that. Let's talk about advanced strategy or advanced search. Now, again, as I said, some of the advanced search you want to do, you need that premium membership for. But how should I use it? Just the concept of advanced search. Give me some ideas about how advanced search can help me and my business as a wholesaler.
Absolutely. So let's say, for example, you want to do a golf outing or a wine event or something along those lines as a wholesaler. You can go into advanced search and use the keyword section and put in wine or golf. And then you could say, I'm looking for advisors at Morgan Stanley. Put in Morgan Stanley. And then you can put in your zip code and of the area that you're looking to invite those Morgan Stanley advisors, for example. And you will get back a list of those individuals that have golf in their profile coupled with the ones that are in your geographic footprint. So that's really powerful. That's so incredibly powerful. And I always tell wholesalers, you know what, go in and play around with advanced search. You're not going to break it. And you can go into stealth mode, and those advisors won't even know that you're looking at them, that you're creeping around on their profile. So that's a huge benefit. And you can toggle between the two, because there might be times where you're like, hey, you know what, I do want that $3 million producer. I want him to know that I'm looking at his profile. You can be transparent. But if you're, doing heavy-duty, prospecting, if you will, go into stealth mode. It's real time when you do that, by the way.
Let's make sure that, and that's really instructive to know that it is real time. I can toggle it on and off. And for those folks that may not be as familiar, just a little bit more information. What do you mean by stealth mode?
Sure, yep. So when you go into LinkedIn and you go into that top black menu bar, there's a section under your profile menu which says who's viewed your profile. If you have the free version, you can look at who's viewed you for the past 5 times. If you have the premium, this is a great premium capability. If you have premium, you can see who's viewed you for the past 90, that's 90 days. That's huge, because normally if someone's looking at you, they're thinking about you, and that's a great time to reach out. Mm-hmm. So if you're in stealth mode, if you look at me, I won't know that you've looked at me. I'll see the silhouette head, and it will say, someone looked at you in private mode. That's all I'll see. I can pay LinkedIn $1 million to say, who is this? They can't tell me. It's your privacy. So that's the stealth mode, if you will.
So I switch over to private mode if I want to do some investigative work and I don't necessarily want to be seen.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Let's talk about introductions. Sometimes, as a user for many years, I get a random request for an introduction.
Right.
And I don't see that they've necessarily gone very far. And candidly, I've never really used introductions. A, how frequent is it that they are being used in your experience? And B, how effective are they?
So you're talking about the LinkedIn introductions, like where it says make an introduction to these 2 individuals.
Yeah, so I'm a first level connection with you, and I want to connect with Jean, and Jean is a second level connection somewhere off in the distance, third level connection somewhere off in the distance. I need a bridge. Is it worth it? Should I try that?
I would suggest that you use it as more or less a last resort. What you would want to do, let's say, for example, in that situation, is you would want to pick up the phone and call me. Say, hey, Laura, you know what? I see you know Jean. How well do you know her? Because you have to pre-qualify. I might not know her. How well do you know her? I'd love to be introduced to her. Can you make that happen for me? And then it depends, on A, whether or not I've known her, and B, what type of introduction are you looking for? Are you looking to meet her offline, like for coffee or for lunch? Do you want me to be involved? So there's a lot of details that are needed in that you can cover off on quickly in a phone conversation or via email. However, the thing about LinkedIn, which is really beneficial, is when people do receive those introduction requests or in mails or messages, they are read 30% more than email. And the reason why is there's very little spam on LinkedIn right now. So people tend to read those. So I always take the approach of pick up the phone. If you can't get in touch with them that way, then absolutely go through that channel. I don't see a lot of wholesalers or advisors using that method because a lot of them will have that feature either blocked or turned off by their firm, or they're so used to the old school way of picking up the phone.
What's interesting about that, too, is I think it through back when LinkedIn first came online, the supposition was you would be connecting with people that you know. And
that's exactly right.
Right, and as LinkedIn has evolved and as social has evolved, I don't know 4,800 people that I'm connected to. So if you ask me for an introduction, the answer you're probably going to get is, I don't really know that person enough to introduce you.
Well, that's right. And actually, it's in the LinkedIn user agreement that you're only accepting folks that you know, right?
Oh, well, I won't tell them that if you won't tell them that you ratted out the free version versus the paid version. So we got a little dirt on each other on this call.
We do. Well, I will say that for wholesalers and advisors, you really should only be connecting to the folks that you do know, that you can, pick up the phone and make those introductions. Because if you do connect to, all these people, then if you do want to take a look at, your home news feed, it's going to be all jimmy jammed up with everything from those 4,800 people, and you might miss an important update from someone. And that's why I was saying in the very beginning of our conversation, when you go on, you want to be very targeted. However, some people like to just scroll through and look at that. They kind of use it as an open-eyed meditation.
So the last thing I want to talk about is this whole notion of social triggers. And I read your information about social triggers with some interest. So first of all, let's get aligned with what they are so the audience clearly understands. B, perhaps how they're overlooked as an opportunity, and then C, how do I take advantage of the opportunity? So let's start with what the heck is a social trigger?
A social trigger is something that is being shared online that triggers you to then act on it. So in LinkedIn's instance, it would be someone's birthday, work anniversary, or new job. That is a social trigger, and LinkedIn has done a beautiful job of consolidating all of that and putting it on one page for you.
Yeah, right there. As you open it up on the right-hand side, you get a box at the upper right if you're online on a laptop, desktop. It shows you, 15, 18, 16 different things that are going on, right?
That's exactly right. Yep. So you can toggle through those quickly, or you can go to the page where they've consolidated all of it, so you can see one, big map of all of it, and that's under My Network Connections.
Okay.
And when that page loads, you'll see everything. That's new jobs, work anniversaries, and birthdays, and then you can react to it. And I always coach wholesalers and advisors, send the personal message and personalize it. Don't use the standard messaging that LinkedIn has on there. We live in a noisy, noisy world. You want to cut through that noise. You want to differentiate yourself. You want to be a giver in the relationship, and you want to personalize it and deepen that relationship.
So your recommendation, because if we are connected to folks that we actually know, is to take advantage of the intel that's been provided to us, and don't be shy about crafting a simple birthday message or a simple work anniversary message or whatever the occasion is.
That is correct. And if you are concerned from a compliance standpoint, well, then take it to email. Take it to your firm's email, where all of those communications are being captured with the advisors that you work with. Of course, we'd love for them to use LinkedIn because, like I had said, LinkedIn messages are read 30% more than email. However, if they're sending a personalized message, do it through email. Better yet, use the intel to take it offline and send a handwritten note, because handwritten notes now have a disproportionate effect because nobody gets them anymore. It's now like prime real estate.
Wholesalers, I don't know if you listened to episode 201, but in episode 201, Mike Squartino gave a statistic that just blew my mind. I guess the U.S. Post Office has somewhere determined that the average mailbox only gets a handwritten note, that is to say, a handwritten letter put in it once every 2 months.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you think about that, if you send a beautiful handwritten note, you're going to stand out head and shoulders above the rest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to increase your MQ, wholesalers, you want to up your memorability quotient, and we talk about that in our follow-up process, of course, and that is make sure that part of your presence in your absence has to do with snail mail, not just email, not just voicemail. Laura, what a pleasure to meet you. What a pleasure to just kind of bask in your information over the course of the last 20 minutes. We thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. I've really, really loved our time together.
Thank you. Wholesalers, be sure to come back next time for another edition of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Thank you for listening, wholesalers. Visit us at wholesalermasterminds.com.